This is the fourth video in the series about DrawFBP, which is a design tool for FBP or flow-based programming. It supports a number of FBP and FBP-like implementations and can support the design process from a high level where you simply give general descriptions of the functions you want, all the way down to the actual implementation, the actual code components that you're using. It supports a multi-level design process where you can use what we call subnets and explode them at a lower level so that you don't have to have more blocks on a diagram than is comfortable. We are now at version 2.13.18 of DrawFBP. There have been some changes to the layout, and in particular the grid and pan buttons have been moved down to the bottom left, as suggested by Bob Carrick in England, who's doing the testing for DrawFBP very kindly. And the pointer for dragging has now been changed to a little hand to distinguish it from where you want to add arrows, which is shown as a blue circle. I'd like to direct your attention to the radio buttons along the bottom of the screen. These are various kinds of symbols that can be added to the display. For example, initial IP. If you click on that, you'll get, you can just add a character string and it works as an initial IP. These are mostly to decorate your diagram: legend, file, person, report. External ports come in when you start to work with subnets. Something you may notice is that when you drag a block, yellow lines show up, which are aligned to the neighboring blocks. This allows you to position your blocks in neat columns and rows. When you release the mouse button, the block will be attracted back to the nearest yellow line. Now I'm going to go back to a simpler diagram and talk first a little bit about what the diagram is actually doing, and then talk about some of the other capabilities of DrawFBP in this context. This shows data being generated from these two blocks, which are in fact using the same code running asynchronously. So they have the same port names, and they have an IIP giving the number of data IPs, information packets, to be generated. These are merged into one input port on sort on a first-come, first-served basis. And sort is perhaps a little unusual in the sense that it has to receive all of its inputs first before it can do its sorting, and before it can output anything. So you can think of it as being three phases: an input phase, which is running asynchronously with upstream processes, and an output phase that is running asynchronously with downstream processes. And of course there's the middle phase, which actually does the real sorting. In what follows, you may notice that the line of radio buttons sometimes disappears in the video. This is just mostly because those particular sections were recorded earlier and I didn't have the alignment quite correct. If you look at the menu under File, you'll see a number of functions. One of the interesting ones is Generate. Now, Generate Java Network, it says, because the diagram language is set to Java. This will change if you change this to C#, let's say. Select diagram language C#. You'll see language group changed, and then this is changed to generate C# network. When the language is set to Java, then you can generate a Java network, drop that into Eclipse or your favorite IDE, and it'll run. In this case, you just have to have a jar file containing these classes or access to a library with these classes in. If you change the language, you also have the option of C#, JSON, and you can also generate what are called FBP code, which is the free form notation. So if you do that, this is what you get. I've called it in the menu, I've called it .fbp code. This is actually a free form notation. It goes back to the free form notation that was invented by Wayne Stevens. And it's used by FlowHub, and it's also supported by the C++ implementation of FBP called CPP FBP. There's a whole bunch of general functions. You can zoom in and out. It's a little grainy, but it could be usable for certain purposes. That's set to 140%. It defaults to 100%. Here we are back. You'll notice that these blocks all have classes filled in, but you can also associate source code with these boxes, which doesn't run, but if you select this one and right-click, you can say display source code. Well, it could be useful. It's not a very fancy editor, but it is editable. Another function that you'll notice we have two fonts specified here. There's a fixed font, which is used for names of programs and classes. And there's a general font, which is used just for text. And if you put a legend here, in this case, that's the font that would be used for that. Legends are like boxes, except they have no boundaries. So the boundaries only show up if you want to actually drag them. So in this case, we can delete it. There we go. So if we go into change fonts, here we go. It puts up a rather elaborate display. I'm not sure if all of this is going to be visible in the video. In this display, we've listed all the fonts that are available on your personal machine. And we've displayed samples of text in 4 languages, which is English, Russian, Devanagari, which is actually the writing system for Hindi, and also Sanskrit, and Chinese. So when you're selecting your fonts, if you have to support some of these languages, you can see immediately which fonts support these particular subset of these languages. I can't guarantee that just because we show Russian that this particular font will necessarily display some language that is not in this list, but at least there's a better chance, I would think. And all you do is you click on the font that you're interested in, and that will be selected. You can also see here that there's 2 columns. One's for fixed fonts, which means the monospaced. I usually use that for code or for IIP contents, for example, which are incorporated directly into the generated network. And the general fonts, they're non-proportional, they're proportional spaced. So they're used for text, legends, and the descriptions of blocks in the blocks, things like that. So we just come out of there. That's been changed. Monospace, bold, italic. Don't know what that's going to look like. Oh, it's quite pretty. Okay, so we have that now. Also change the font size. Change font size here. It defaults to 14, but of course you can go up as high as you like. This is going to look pretty strange, but there we go. Okay, so, but the whole idea of human factors, you might want to stretch things a little bit to give things a bit more space. And this is kind of busy right now, but anyway. So that's that. I think I'll set it back to what I'm used to. Change font size back to 14. There we go. A couple of buttons down in the bottom left-hand corner. Grid and pan. Grid merely means when it's on that a new block will be positioned aligned with what you can think of as an invisible grid, horizontal and vertical. Delete that. Yes. Pan basically puts up a little paw, and then you can grab the entire picture and move it around in the drawing field. Then you switch it off. One function that I haven't talked about at all is the help function. The help has two sub-items. One is about, as you might expect. Talks about the version, talks about the date of the version and who worked on it. Copyright information. Get rid of that. But the help, launch help, uses standard Java help. And this uses a jar file, the Java help jar file. And once you have downloaded that, help remembers where that is and we'll use it in the future. But the first time you have to tell DrawFBP where your Java help file is. It can be obtained from Maven, or it can also be obtained from the FBP website. Maven is probably the simplest. Once you've downloaded it, you click on Locate Java help file, Java help jar file, and in this case I seem to have two, so you could just click on this one and it'll say it now knows where it is, and from then on you don't have to worry about it. That's it for now on those topics, and in the next video I want to talk about subnets, which is a bigger topic than will fit into the rest of this video. Subnets in FBP have a role to play both at design time and at runtime. And if you're working on a large project, they're almost essential to keep your diagrams manageable and the logic under control. And you can also take a diagram and excise a piece of it into a separate subnet. And I'll show you how we do that as well. Thanks for watching this one, and as always, feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Thanks a lot. Bye.